All right, at 6:05 p.m., this meeting of the Mountain View Wisman School Board will be called to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now move on to item 2, the organizational meeting. We'll start with a roll call of trustees.
Ellen Wheeler,
Chris Chain?
Laura Berman,
Let the record reflect that all 5 trustees are present. We will now have the approval of the organizational agenda. Are there any trustee comments about the organizational agenda? Seeing as there are none, we'll take public comment on this item. If you're a member of the public and you would like to comment on this item, you can raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Seeing as there are no public comments at this time, is there a motion from trustees?
so moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? On a motion made by trustee Wheeler and seconded by trustee Berman, the organizational agenda is approved unanimously. We will now move on to item C, the election of officers. At our most recent board meeting in November, we discussed trustees' interest in officers' roles, and at that time, we nominated trustee Blakely to serve as president, trustee Berman to serve as vice president, and trustee Wheeler to serve as clerk. Are there any questions from trustees before we take public comment? Seeing as there are none, if you are a member of the public and you would like to comment on this item, you can raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Seeing as there are no comments at this time, are there any comments from trustees, or would you like us to vote separately, trustee Wheeler, or pass a motion that elects all 3 officers? You look concerned.
No, I was just looking at something else
Oh, okay. Okay. Are there comments from trustees or a motion
about the officers.
for the 3 officers that were nominated?
So I move that we approve the 3 officers as discussed.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On a motion made by trustee Wheeler and seconded by trustee Berman, I am happy to share that the Board of Trustees has unanimously approved our new president as trustee Blakely, our new vice president as trustee Berman, and our new clerk as trustee Wheeler. We can now change chairs.
You're leaving big shoes to fill.
You're a pro, trustee vice president, President Blakely. You're a pro.
This is going to be a little difficult to move chairs right now. And I'm, yeah.
All right, we will move chairs after close, and I'm going to pass the gavel to President Blakely.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. So the next item on the agenda is board representative assignments. And at our last board meeting, we discussed the following board assignments. There are a couple that we need to finalize. We had Measure T bond oversight for Laura Blakely, Jack, Laura Blakely, District Advisory Committee, Trustee Wheeler, DLAC, Trustee Berman, or Vice President Berman, I should say, MVF, Trustee Conley, Parcel Tax, Trustee Chang, PTA Council, Trustee Berman, and Equity, Trustee Conley. And then we had some open slots for.
Can you just slow down so that we can capture all that just real quick? For 21, 22, so we have MVF is now went from Berman to Conley. Okay. Equity Committee, is that still open?
That was Trustee Conley, I believe.
That's Conley still? And then
The
Health and Wellness is still open?
that was open. Santa Clara County School Board Association was open, and then I believe the Bond Oversight Committee was me. That's the one.
Parcel tax, is that still trustee Chang? Okay, and then PTA council is Berman? Okay. So then we just have Santa Clara County School Boards and Health and Wellness were the last two, correct? I
So,
just want to make sure I capture those.
so I'd like to mention that a lot has happened since our last meeting. And I'm hoping that Trustee Conley, you will tell us more about it in public, later on. But between that meeting and this meeting, Trustee Conley now has a area-wide position. And so I emailed her about it, saying, at this point, I think it would be better if we had our own district rep to Santa Clara County School Boards Association, since Trustee Conley will be doing an area-wide representation. And in the email that just the two of us wrote about it, so it was no violation of the Brown Act. I said that now I would like to finish out my term as our Santa Clara County School Board Association rep. And then, and going along with my thought, and I will not be voting next year, but my thought is next year when you have this position up for representative, that someone else from the board take on this position as well, since I'm assuming that Devin will continue with her area-wide position. So anyway, that's a long description to, I would like to continue as the Santa Clara County School Board Association voting member.
Did any other trustees have questions?
Yeah.
For comment from the public?
Okay.
So did any other trustees have questions about? Oh, sorry.
I don't know if it's a question or if it's expressing interest in an open committee assignment. Would that be after public comments or?
When we wait for public comment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So were there any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding this item? If so, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. Seeing none, I will open this back up for comments and any expressions of interest from the trustees. And Trustee Chang, you had indicated that you were perhaps interested.
Yes. So I think most of us saw the email from Director Jimbo about the time for the health and wellness. So it meets on Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. That's a committee. I'm in, unless there's other board members who are interested. It's a time I'm available, and it's a committee I'm interested in. But I also want to hear if other people want to serve for the. And it's an observation role. It's it's just observing that committee.
Trustee Conley.
So when I brought up the Health and Wellness Committee at our last meeting, I brought it up because I've wanted to go for years and it's been hard to figure out when it is and if we have a role there. So I would like to start attending the meetings, but I'm happy to not be the official appointed person or to be an alternate or something like that, so that it could be your responsibility to report out to the board on it. But I would definitely like to be there because it's something that I wanted for a long time, and that's why I brought it up last time.
Trustee Wheeler.
Yeah, what I was going to say is traditionally too, when we have working members of our board that can only come to night meetings, that we give them some latitude for being a representative to that meeting. And your suggestion, Trustee Conley, to attend is absolutely proper. So I would support Trustee Chang being our representative to the Health and Wellness Committee.
It's the observer, right? It's not a voting member.
Well, it's a non-voting member, but he would be the person from our board who is representing our board to that committee.
Right. Any further comments from trustees? Do we need a motion for that? I suppose we do.
I think so.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
And we're moving,
I move that the Board of Trustees representatives to committee assignments be adopted as we have presented and discussed here.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, and now is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding closed session agenda items, please do so. Tonight's closed session has 2 items on the closed session agenda. To address the board, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. And I will wait a few moments to see how many speakers we have and allocate time accordingly.
So, new President Blakely, I think you skipped an agenda item.
Oh my goodness.
We have to reapprove the agenda. We have to approve the agenda for the whole meeting because we approved only the organizational meeting agenda.
Okay, members of the public who wanted to address us on items not on the agenda, please hang on for a moment while we go back and move to, I was going too quickly. So approval of the agenda. Are there any trustee comments regarding the agenda? Thank you for pointing that out, Trustee Wheeler. If there are any members of the item who would like to address the board regarding this item, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. Yeah, it looks like we have Mr. Nelson on the phone. Did you want to comment on this item or on the other item, Mr. Nelson? I guess let's go ahead and set the timer for 3 minutes in case it's this item. And if it's the next item, well,
I'm unmuted. I'd like to comment on the closed session item. Thank you.
okay, thank you. So with respect to the approval of the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So on a motion made by Trustee Wheeler and seconded by Trustee Conley, the agenda was approved unanimously. Okay, now we are going to the opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda. If anyone has any comments, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. And I see that we have one hand raised. Were there any others who wanted to comment on the closed session agenda? Okay, will you please set the timer, Dr. Rudolph and Mr. Nelson, you may begin. You have 3 minutes. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, this is on items A1, the real property negotiation. I hope you realize that you can open some negotiation on real property negotiations to open session, even if you close some other parts of it. So the discussion on the Public Fields Joint Use Agreement, you all should know this organization got in trouble with the community over first the SaveCooperPark.org issue and recently the Mon Loma school field fences issue. Be careful, be open. You are dealing with community resources that have been shared for over 60 years. Item B1, the Brown Act and pending litigation. I assume a tort claim has been filed with the district, and I think that makes it pending, not potential legal issue. I'm very glad to see the required topic and dollar amount. The public business is what this and the Brown Act minimum requirements are all about. Why unnecessary opacity is bad policy. It makes the public think you are crooked and devious. But this particular disclosure is a public relations plus. There are documented special education problems. They have been admitted by this district, but this disclosure in the materials makes it clear to us you are proceeding to fix your small problems with minimal cost and clear intent. Special ed, you know, is a problem and you are working to admit your mistakes. Keep them small, not tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and move on. That's a good job. Thank you.
So the board will now adjourn to closed session. Hello, we're returning to open session at 7:44 p.m. Let the record reflect that on a motion, I'm sorry, forgive me. Let me report out from closed session on the agenda item, legal advice regarding anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, student number 60009430. There was a settlement agreement for student number 60009430 approved by a vote of 5-0. The settlement requires reimbursement funding to the student totaling $14,425 and fully resolves students' claim for the 21-22 school years. Okay. Thank you. So now moving on to item 7 on our agenda, communications. A is employee organizations. Are there any representatives of employee organizations who would like to address the board at this time? If so, please use the right hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. I'm going on students' consent next. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I apologize. Okay, forgive me. I'm the newcomer syndrome. Okay, so closed session, then we reconvened open session. We did the closed session report. Item 6, the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved in one motion. If discussion is required, items may be removed for consideration separately. Did any trustees have questions about the consent agenda? Any members of the public wishing to comment on the consent agenda? If so, please raise your hand in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. Okay, any questions about the consent agenda, or may I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on a motion made by trustee Conley and seconded by trustee Wheeler, the consent agenda was approved unanimously. Okay, now we go to item 7, which is communications. And if there are any, well, first is employee organizations. Are there any representatives of employee organizations who'd like to address the board at this time? If so, please raise your hand in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. Okay, seeing as there are none, we'll move on to district committees. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't. Where's the Zoom? Where would it be here? Why am I not seeing that? Oh, it's right here. Excuse me, Mr. Dector. My sincere apologies. I'm not trying to skip over you. Dr. Rudolph, can you, do we do time for comments? Or? Okay.
Normally this is sort of routine. It doesn't extend that long. So there's no timer.
I appreciate everyone bearing with me, in particular, Mr. Dector. Will you please unmute yourself and let us know about the employee organizations?
Thank you. Dear Board of Trustees, hello, my name is Sean Dector. I am the Mountain View Educators Association President. Over the last few weeks, teachers wrote many statements that we wanted to share with you. At the last board meeting, 4 teachers read a few of these statements. Due to the time limit, most of the statements were not read in full. It would take multiple hours to read all of the statements, and we want the opportunity to share these statements with you sooner rather than later. So instead of waiting to read each of these statements at a board meeting, we are sending them to you now by email. We hope that you have the opportunity over the next few weeks to read each one of them so that you can understand a little better what teachers in our school district are experiencing. Yesterday, Dr. Rudolph sent out a letter to our district. We appreciate that he acknowledged the tremendous and unsustainable workload that our teachers and support staff are currently under. However, the temporary changes mentioned in this letter have not been seen at many of our schools and haven't made a significant difference in our workload. We would like to close our contract reopeners before winter break, and our teachers need the support from the school board to help us solve these workload issues. We hope that there is a continued effort by our district administrators to fix the many issues mentioned in the following statements, and to meet us in faith at the negotiating table to make long-lasting changes in our district so that we are able to retain the talented educational professionals that we already have, as well as attract many highly qualified educators. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Dector. We appreciate your report. The next item is district committees. Are there any representatives of district committees who would like to address the board at this time? If so, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. Now I'm looking at the right place and I don't see any raised hands or phone members waiting up. And again, apologies while I get up to speed here. The next item is the superintendent, Dr. Rudolph. Do you have comments for us this evening?
Yep, I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. I know we have a couple weeks coming off or coming up, so please be safe if you're traveling to Tahoe. Especially be safe because I know that they're getting pounded with snow. Just want to give you a couple of quick updates. Well, tomorrow we have our last community update for the year, for the calendar year. So we'll be talking about a couple of things. One of the big ones is that we will be doing COVID testing for both students and their family members at the district office on the 29th of December. So right in between the two holidays. So we'll put more information out on that information next week, but please know that that's going to come. We'll also be talking about tomorrow just that we will be starting up the ramp up for volunteers process so that families can start submitting information. Just as a reminder, one of the requirements is that you do have to be COVID vaccinated. And we'll continue to watch our numbers. We've had a sizable number of cases this week. More than what we've typically had. And so that's going to be one of the things that we talk about, as well as a couple other changes that we just have coming in terms of like what we're going to do with OK to reopen and a couple other things that are taking place. But just wanted to wish everybody a happy new year and please be safe. And, you know, we look forward to seeing y'all in the 2022.
Thank you, Dr. Rudolph. Okay, now we're moving to item 8 for community comments. This is the time reserved for community members to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board and administration welcome this opportunity to listen. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the board is not permitted to take action on non-agenda items. To address the board, if there are members of the public who would like to address the board regarding this item, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or press 9 on your phone. I'll wait a moment to see how many speakers we have and allocate time accordingly. Oh, *9. *9 on your phone if there's anybody who wanted to speak on this item that's on the phone. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hands, so we will move on to item 9, review and action. A is naming the board representative for the county committee. And Dr. Rudolph, I believe you are presenting on this.
All right, I think this one's pretty straightforward in terms of we need for the board to actually name your county representative or the county committee representative. So
Can I ask a comment here? Yeah, so now that we've experienced the entire process, you see that this is kind of a pro forma vote. You put a name down on a form. Normally we put down the name of our president. And then when it's time to actually vote, the norm of our board is to have a discussion, but then the board president would, or our representative who we select tonight, would sign their name to that form. But this isn't, we're not nominating somebody to be on the committee. You're just nominating somebody to sign your name on behalf of our board. So I I guess I don't make a motion at this point. We'll wait for community comment, but afterwards I'd like to make a motion.
Did any other trustees have questions before we, okay. So I'd like to open this up to community comment. If any members of the public would like to speak on this item, please either press *9 on your phone or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing as there are none, trustees and trustee Wheeler in particular, you indicated an interest in.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve our board president, Laura Blakely, to be that person who whose signatures on, or whose name is on this form.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone objecting? Okay, on a motion made by trustee Wheeler and seconded by trustee Berman, the motion was approved unanimously. All right. The next item under section 9 is single plans for student achievement. And I believe that Ms. Bauer, our Chief Academic Officer, will be presenting on this. Ms. Bauer?
Yes, thank you tonight. Trustees, I'm here tonight to ask for your approval of all of our schools' school plans for student achievement. They are all attached. We've all had the opportunity to see the plans, meet with principals, ask questions. And these plans are a compilation of a lot of work between the school site council and the staff, as well as input from the ELAC. I would like to say that if you make a motion to approve, in the motion that I presented in the narrative, it seems like the state did change the title from single plan for student achievement to school plan for student achievement. And I mistakenly wrote single. So I would just ask in your motion that you would replace the word single with school. And I also accidentally wrote Huff instead of MI. My apologies. And I'm here for questions as well as all of the principals.
Trustees, were there any questions for Ms. Bauer or any of the principals? I know a lot of us had an opportunity to already meet individually with various principals and review the plans, and the trustees had a month to review the plans, and I know I did, and I believe my colleagues have all done that already. So if there's no questions at this time from trustees, if there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, will you please either raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 if you're on your phone? Okay, I don't see anybody wanting to speak. So were there any trustees that would like to make comments? Trustee Conley?
Thank you, President Blakely. I would very much like to thank Dr. Rudolph and our Chief Academic Officer, Kathy Bauer, as well as all of our district leadership team for their support around this process. This was a new process this year for the trustees to get the plans so far ahead of time and to have the opportunity to interview all of the individual principals. The hero of this operation has been Nancy Viliaba, who is our superintendent's executive assistant, because she had to manage all of the schedules to get us in for the meetings. So I very much appreciate all of her work doing that. And, I'd like to say the beauty of this process is that the school plans for student achievement are how the strategic plan that we develop as board members with our community, it's how that strategic plan is transformed into action at the school site. Every day, our principals, our teachers, and our school staff, they live and breathe these documents, and they have a direct impact on our students. So talking with the principals about their plans has been an incredibly rewarding experience, but it's also been very meaningful and informative as a trustee to hear about their enthusiasm for the work ahead, the joy that they take in their teams, and the individual needs of each school. We are really fortunate to have such accomplished school leaders who celebrate and enhance each unique school community.
Thank you, Trustee Conley. Trustee Wheeler, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I would just like to spotlight one principle that for the history of my being on the board, this was, I think, the most impressive DLAC representation of that this school has ever had. And I'm talking about Dorokoff, and I'm talking about Michelle Williams. 10 members of DLAC from that school, compared to, long time ago when it was difficult to get parent participation at that school. So I want to just give a shout out to her and their entire DLAC.
Thank you. Trustee Berman?
Well, I just wanted to echo Trustee Conley's comments. I have the exact same list of thank yous and appreciations, and just a special thanks to the principals. So I know are so busy this time of year for making the time to answer our questions and just paint this the picture of what it looks like at their school site as they meet the needs of their students. So thank you so much for making the time. And I'm looking forward already to the next time we can sit and reflect on how these plans are going. Thank you.
I also just want to thank the members of the state councils. I think you caught them, but they worked on this too. I know under the principal's leadership, but all you state council members out there and all you DLAC members, thank you. We really do appreciate it. It takes a village to run our schools. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion to,
Oh, trustee, I didn't see your hand up.
Sorry,
My
just a-
apologies.
Saying had a comment, sorry.
Just a comment, and again, share all the appreciations the board has already relayed. Just something I encourage our board to think about. In the plan, they talk about the for people pandemic funding that they use for some of their goals, and I think when we were looking at the plans, a lot of those goals are things I think they would want to continue in the future. So I look forward to us in the board finding ways that we can continue to have them be able to continue to do the things that they're using their pandemic funding for in the future.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the school site plans for the school plans for student achievement for Bubb Elementary School, Castro Elementary School, Crittenden Middle School, Grant Middle School, Landals Elementary School, Mistral Elementary School, Montaloma Elementary School, Stevenson Elementary School, Therakoff Elementary School, Vargas Elementary School, and Imai Elementary School as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, on a motion made by trustee Conley and seconded by trustee Berman, the motion carried unanimously.
It came in after chair closed community comments. So that's up to y'all, but
If it came in after, I normally would not take the comment. Okay. My apologies to the member of the community with the raised hand, but your hand was not up before the time that we closed comment on the school site plan item. So if you have comments that you would like to submit, you can email us and we will read them. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to item 10, review and discussion. And the first item is employee housing project update. And
all right, so I'll start off just by saying, and I'm glad that we have teachers on here. So this is really a momentous moment for us. We're going to be talking about two different projects that we have. One is a multi-district partnership with Joe Sminian's office in Palo Alto that multiple districts have had. And the second project is our very own teacher housing project that is going right down the street at 777 Middlefield. So I'm going to turn over to Dr. Westover and allow her to go ahead and introduce both of these projects so you can understand and get a feel. So I think this is a good way to end the year, get a feel for what these projects are looking like, because we are moving towards demolition and we are moving towards the actual building. And then next year we will start talking about working on the actual parameters for leases. And so I know some of us at CSBA sat in the panel I've already reached out to both of those, the panelists, to help us with sort of the leasing process to make sure that we have that going, because it's going to be here pretty soon. It's going to be really exciting. And one of the benefits is, thank you to the community for helping to pay for this project, which allows us to keep the rents really, really affordable. And we will be talking about what we expect the rents are. But the board's direction, at least a couple of years ago when we started this, was to make sure that we just simply pay the land lease cost, which means that it is going to be very, very cheap, considering that we have 144 units. And if you think about that, just between the mix, I think the land leases are somewhere around $1.8 million. So if you think about this, 144 units, you can divide that by 1.8. Obviously, some will cost more than others, but it sort of gives you a ballpark figure of where we're going to be, which is really a game changer in our community and super exciting. And it's right down the street from the district office. So we'll be able to see it in real time as it goes. So with that said, Dr. Westover, you want to talk about the first project?
Sure. Good evening. To kick it off, I have some individuals to present who will be doing the presentation. We have Megan Pearson, Kelly Hollywood, Sarah Choffin, Catherine Alexander, who is representing the Office of Supervisor Joe Simidian.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. We're so happy to be here tonight and presenting to you our project in Palo Alto. I am Megan Pearson. I'm with Abode Communities, and we are one of the developers along with Mercy Housing of this project. So we're just going to give you a brief project summary, a design update, a financing update, and then a schedule update. So just an overview of the project. The total project is 110 units, and the unit mix is studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. The project is designed to serve a range of incomes from 60% area median income up to 140% area median income. It is a modular project, so the units will be built in a factory off-site and delivered to the site, and it's a 4-story building. We have 112 vehicular parking spaces, which is about 1 space per unit, and then 134 long-term bike parking spaces. And then you'll see in the drawings I'm going to show you in a minute, we also have a series of public plazas along Grant Avenue and a small 1,000 square foot flex space. So once again, this is the rendering of the project along Grant Avenue, the main entrance to the project. And this is our updated site plan. So over on to the left, we have Birch Avenue, Grant, and then to the right, Park. The garage is to the rear of the project, and that's where the parking is. It'll be parking stackers. That's how we fit the 112 parking spaces in that small space. And it's a 2-way garage, so there's an in and out on both Birch and Park. Moving along Grant Avenue, we have 5 residential units on the ground floor. And behind that, we have some of our electrical room. We have a storage for the residents. So every resident will have an extra storage space down on the ground floor. In the middle is what we call our welcome grove. That will be the entrance to our lobby, and have some really nice landscaping here and some benches that are at different heights so kids can crawl around on them and have fun. I think it'll be a really welcoming space. Moving along Grant Avenue, we have our resident community room that will open out into Grant to have an outdoor community porch. And this room is really meant for the residents of the building if they want to have gatherings or for community meetings, for that sort of thing. And behind that is more resident storage and the bike room, which will be a secure bike room for people to store their bikes. And then on the corner of Grant and Park, we have the flex space. So this will be a small commercial space. We haven't narrowed it down exactly to what it's going to be, but based on the community outreach that we did, it got narrowed down to kind of 3 options. One would be a grab and go coffee shop that would have like sandwiches, salads, coffee, that sort of thing. The second would be renting out the space to a nonprofit that could provide some sort of art, music, enrichment class. And the third would be renting it out to a nonprofit or somebody who could provide an exercise class. And then that flex space opens up into a public plaza here on the corner that will have some tables and chairs and some nice landscaping. So moving to the second floor. So this is where the units start. So all the units stack from here. And on this level, we have our 3 courtyards that will be only for the residents. And so the west courtyard is kind of our more public gathering space. It will have a couple barbecues, some tables, chairs, some games. And that's really intended as a place where families can gather, or they can invite other families over and they can gather there and have more public gatherings. The center courtyard is, the front of the center courtyard is adjacent to the laundry. So we kind of made a little space there where you can sit at a table and a couple of chairs while you're waiting for your laundry. And as you move down, we'll have a children's play structure there for kids to play on. And then kind of an open space where people can have a little picnic or do some outdoor exercise. And coming along the back, we have a small dog run back here for people to walk their dogs. And then over in the east courtyard, we've designed that to be a more private space. So there will be Wi-Fi in all the outdoor spaces. And so we kind of envision this east courtyard as a place where somebody could bring their laptop out and they could sit at one of the little tables and, grade papers or be on a Zoom or something of that nature, but it's really more of a private space. All right, so the summary of what your district will have in this project. As mentioned previously, this project does serve a variety of school districts. So your district will have 12 units allocated. That will be a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. We're still working on the final distribution, but right now what it's looking at is probably 3 studios, 7 1-bedrooms, and 2 2-bedroom units. And the rents will be a range of the 60% AMI to 140% area median income. The units will be offered on a lottery system, and kind of how we came to the unit mix and the AMI levels for your district was based on the results of the survey that we did. I think it was last year now when we did the survey. All right, so the financial terms, what we're asking for is $600,000 total investment, which works out to $50,000 per unit. And that would just be a one-time investment. After the $600,000 is provided, we wouldn't be asking for anything else beyond that. The funds will be provided to the County of Santa Clara, and the school district and the County of Santa Clara will enter into an agreement for the administration of funds, and then the county will administer the funds to us, the developer. We're asking for the funds to be committed and received by the county prior to April 2022, and that's just so we can keep on our schedule for our construction start in the summer. And just wanted to remind everyone that the funds are considered grant funds and there's no payments or residual receipts provided by the project. And just our last slide is our schedule highlights. So in October this year, we had our EIR, Environmental Impact Report, public meeting. We're planning to go to the Board of Supervisors meeting for project approval and EIR approval in January 2022. And then submit for our demolition and building permit around spring 2022. Planning to start demolition in fall 2022. And then the remainder of the on-site construction in winter 2022, with those modular units installed in spring 2023 and complete construction first quarter 2024 and start welcoming our residents. So that is our update. I don't know if anybody has any questions, happy to answer. Anything?
Should we take questions now or save them until the end?
You can't, because they're two totally different projects.
Oh.
I wanted to talk just about this one before we go on to
Oh, okay,
the
that's
next
fine.
one.
Trustee Chang, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. It's a really exciting project. The per unit cost of 50,000, the district contribution. What is the total cost to build per unit? So if we calculate in other revenue sources are paying for this project and county sources, do we have an average per unit cost total?
Yes, the total per unit cost for everything related to the project is about 790,000 per unit. So you're getting a pretty good deal.
Does that include the land, the value of the land?
Well, since the land is owned by the county, there is no cost for the land. The county's donating the land as part of their contribution to the project.
I just was wondering whether that was calculated into the per unit cost.
Oh, no, it does not include a land cost. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions, trustees? Were there any members of the public, if there are any members of the public that have questions about this, please raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Trustees, did anyone have any comments on this item? Trustee Conley?
I just wanted to thank the county for their support around this and Supervisor Smidian's office. We know that workforce housing is a huge issue here in the Bay Area, and we very much appreciate this opportunity to partner with you all to be able to do this for our teachers.
You're here. Any other comments? Well, I will echo Trustee Conley's comments. We're super grateful. I wish we could find more housing for $50,000 a unit. It's those are prices that we haven't seen in decades. So thank you very much. And it's great. It's served by public transportation. It's a good location. I'm sure the lucky 12 district employees who get to live there will be even more grateful than we are. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
And then I know, right, but I'm not sure who's speaking on the next one. Thank you, Dr. Westover.
And we have another presentation this evening for staff housing. We have Perry and Jeffrey from Fort Bay to present tonight. Let's make sure they can unmute
I've
themselves.
seen Perry Herrera's name pop up. I don't see it now.
Jason Cave is
They
also.
make him a co-host, Shirley. There we go.
Jason Cave is also here to answer any questions if they come up.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, great. Well, let me see if I can share. For some reason, my video is not working, but I'm going to share my try to share my screen here with the presentation.
Will that work if the video is on? You can, okay.
Okay, hold on here.
I know we had it in our presentation materials.
As Perry is pulling up his presentation, wanted to let the public know that the previous presentation is uploaded online if anyone wanted to see it. It was not part of the original board packet.
So can everybody see my presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, the presentation tonight, the timing couldn't be better because we just, other than the fact that it's our Christmas party and I'm stepping out to do this thing in Palm Springs. But the timing is good because we just signed our loan to start the construction of the project. And we are moving full steam ahead. It's just a little bit of history here. This project got approved May of 2019. The last year we've been working on construction documents and those are completed and we've submitted them to the city for building permits. The year before that was a mad scramble with COVID and trying to keep our financing together and make sure it didn't go away. And we held it all together as rents were dropping 25%. So Since then, we've, all the tenants have left, they've vacated. We have started demolition, which is exciting. Can you guys see the schedule on the screen?
Yes.
So we were doing minor on-site remediation, removing the popcorn ceilings and lead paint and so forth. So that's all being done now. We're going to be demolishing the buildings in earnest the first of the year, and starting grading probably February. The last, 3 months, we've been working on our construction budget. As everybody knows, the costs of everything has gone up, and construction costs have really skyrocketed, especially the price of lumber and concrete. And we've been just negotiating furiously to try to maintain costs. That being said, from the budget we had at the beginning of the project 2 years ago to today, even on our market rate and the affordable, they're up almost 22%. So it's been pretty drastic with the pandemic and labor shortage and just the inflation. But despite that, I'm pretty excited to report. I think we've got the financing to move forward with the project. Your previous presentation mentioned the cost per unit of $790,000. We are trying to maintain the cost for the teacher housing units, even with prevailing wage, at about less than 600,000. So we're pretty excited about that. Let me run the schedule for everyone here. We should have our budget to present to Jason and the superintendent and the board sometime in January. We'll have a fully negotiated budget, fully negotiated contract with the general contractor to present to you for review and approval. And we would hope to get that finalized by February. We want to start grading and excavation in February. We want to start the shoring, which is, let me show you actually the project quickly. Actually, the better view would be this. I don't know if you can see my screen. This is the teacher housing project. It's a 10-acre site on 777 West Middlefield. This is the teacher housing site. It's on almost 2 acres, 144 units. These two buildings are the market rate buildings, about 572 units. And the composition of the units for the teacher housing are, of the 144 units, we have 19 studios, 87 one-bedrooms, and 38 two-bedrooms. I'm going to go back here. There are 2 very nice amenity spaces in the teacher housing building. But what's exciting is the teachers will have access to the amenities in the market rate buildings. So they'll have access to state-of-the-art fitness center, a wellness center, private dining area, another fitness area, a pool and a spa, a business room, the club room, co-working room. So they're gonna have access to the market rate amenities. I will leave this presentation for everyone to review. Rebecca has this to share. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time reviewing the units, but they're fairly generous size units. The one bedrooms are 670, 680 units. The 2 bedrooms are about 950 units, 50 square feet. Let's see what else we have here. We've used a professional designer from San Francisco to design both the teacher housing and the market rate. This is a little image of what the co-working and the open kind of the activity rooms would look like in the teacher housing building. I will also send, it's not here, pictures of our amenities in the market rate. This shows some of the early construction demolition going on our site right now. There's fencing. If you go by there, you will see the fencing. So that's essentially the update. I mean, the timing, like I said, couldn't be better because we just signed our construction loan. And this is going to happen. This is going to happen, and we hope that we can just maintain our pricing. We were waiting for lumber to drop. At one point, lumber was $1,600 a board foot. It dropped back down to $500, and now it's creeping back up to a little bit more. But just to give you an idea, pre-pandemic, lumber was about $450 a board foot. Now it reached a high of $1,600. So you can imagine the impact that has on costs. And then there's just massive labor cost escalation too. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any questions for Mr. Hurry? Trustee Chang?
Thank you for that presentation. That's really exciting. Regarding the financing for this project, are there income restrictions that we should be aware of that teachers will need to, or educators will need to fall within?
All of our teachers fall within the AMI. So one of the beauties of this project is that Perry and I both went to City Council and advocated that they increase the AMI levels so that we'll be able to capture as many teachers as possible. And so it is a lot. I believe we're at more moderate, and I think we go up to 140 AMI or something like that. So it captures a lot of our teachers who would be able to qualify.
And in the financing that Fort Bay has pursued, there wouldn't be any additional income restrictions for any of the taxes and things that they.
The financing that he's talking about is for the larger project.
Yeah.
But for us, our financing, in order to get our portion of it, has already been secured. But we have to remember that it's also about the parking garage and all the other amenities. And so that's when he's talking about his financing, he's talking about in order to get the full project complete, they need this secured, but we were part of their larger project packet to say, this building is taken care of. And then they factor in the land lease agreement as a in their pro forma.
Exactly. So, I mean, just to follow up on Dr. Rudolph's comments, the project as a whole, as he said, to his point, is financed. We're developing the entire site, grading it, building the garage, which the teacher housing project will share and use. And that's how we've been able to keep the costs where we are versus like a typical project where in the Bay Area is about $800,000 a unit. We're maintaining the teacher housing units as at less than $600,000. We're absorbing about $200,000 a unit in cost by absorbing the parking garage per unit, all the amenities. We're absorbing all of that in the market rate so we can provide the teacher housing units at the cost we are. So that's kind of the mathematics of it.
Thank you. Did any other trustees have questions for Mr. Hurry? No? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand in the Zoom function or press *9 on your phone. And Mr. Hurry, I think if you could take down the slides because I can't see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Did it stop?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. So I don't see any members of the public wishing to speak on this item. So trustees, comments, Trustee Conley?
Yes, I again would like to thank the entire team that's been behind this and the partnership with the city, the work with the development team to actually get this off the ground and get shovels into the ground soon. When I was the League of Women Voters observer of the school board back in the 2017 to 2018, I saw the board talking about these plans And I was so impressed and excited because this is truly innovative. There are not a lot of examples of this across California, but it is vital. We know that there's a housing crisis in California, and that crisis impacts our teachers and staff, as well as other workers in our community. So the opportunity to be able to do this, the fact that our voters passed the bond Measure T is making this possible as well. So just a huge thanks for all of the work of the former board, the current board, our administrators, and the city government, and everyone who's involved with this project.
You're here. There was a lot of creativity that went into this. And I think Dr. Rudolph and Mr. Hariri really had to roll up their sleeves and get out their pencils. And also, as you pointed out, work with the city who agreed to raise, they initially had this below AMI band. And at the time, I think only our first year teachers would have qualified, and probably they wouldn't today. So it's really wonderful that we can make this available for our teachers and staff.
Well, I want to echo that. I mean, I want to really commend Dr. Rudolph and the board for being so creative and innovative, and the city. This is the first of its kind in California. I'm not aware of any other project like this. So it's pretty exciting.
We're excited.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out that there's also Perry and I have talked about the possibility of joining up again for one more project that he has coming in East Middlefield, East Westman. Yes. And also the possibility of bringing other districts in for that one. So I know we mentioned it briefly, but we're going to explore that one also just to see what the feasibility is. And he's doing modular in that one, which means it's a little bit, it'll save us a little funds in the long run.
And I will share with Rebecca the images and the plans for the amenity areas for the market rate to which the teachers will have access. And I think everybody's going to be blown away. It's going to be probably the nicest project in Mountain View, and the teachers will have access to it.
You're here. Did anyone else have any comments or questions for Mr. Harry? Trustee Chang?
Yes, a comment, actually a question perhaps maybe for more, Dr. Rudolph or Dr. Westover. But the comment first, I was in a meeting with a local developer for another Mountain View project, and when they heard who we were working with for Fort Bay, they said that we were really lucky, and that's really one of the really good ones, and that this project would be very different if you had a different partner. And they said that we were really lucky that for the partners we had. And when I see this presentation and the work of the district and the Fort Bay, that's really true. So I'm really grateful to the district and to Fort Bay. We are lucky. A question for the district on Dr. Ruff mentioned earlier that the teacher's rent will kind of pay for the ground lease. Do we know for like the kind of the annual the building management, kind of like the annual insurance and upkeep? Will that be something that will also built into the rent, or do we anticipate that's something that the district will take on?
Yeah, so it's been a while since we've run a pro forma, but originally, and Perry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a 10% set aside that you do for the actual pro forma to do for maintenance and operations.
Yeah, you're Dr. Rudolph's correct. I mean, the ground lease is, so all the operating expenses are covered by the rent. So the operating expenses are covered and then and I believe that this building will also get a property tax exemption, so that helps. So the rents will cover the operating expenses and maintenance and so forth and reserves, and then whatever's left will pay for the ground lease, and there should even be some ability to kind of manage your rents there, because I think you're going to be in a pretty good shape.
Yeah. So our rents, and I've met with Sarah Chafin and all of them. Our rents will be considerably lower at this project than it will be at the other projects. Not to say that those rents won't be low either, but when we originally ran the pro forma, the only way that we could pull this off would have been to be close to market. And the fact that we, because we were assuming that at that time we weren't going to pass a bond. And so I mean, Perry and I sort of laughed like, the rents were 2,000 plus, and very close to market. And then after the bond passed, it really substantially dropped the cost of the rents. And so to his credit, in Fort Bay, I just have to point out, like they, when they did the relocation, they paid for people to go there. As you said, among developers, they are one of the few that you'll ever get that are just so kind to make sure that these types of things happen. And the fact that they're allowing us to use their amenities and found ways to keep the costs low. Other developers probably would have found a way to increase our costs. But the fact that those costs are so low allow us to keep the rents substantially low too. But we will include into that cost maintenance and operations, reserves, all the fees that we have to take. We're going to manage the application process, but all the other things are taken care of.
And just one last question, I think, for the district on this. And before that, something Dr. Ruff, when you said that you're hoping that teachers are listening, I too hope the teachers are listening. And I know that it's all educators in district that would be able to access this. But at 144 units, we have about 300 teachers in our district. And I recognize this availability goes to all educators, but that's like half, that's half our teaching force if it was teachers that end up being in those units, in addition to other district employees. But the last question is, many of us were in the CSBA workshop or forum on teacher housing, and the LA Unified representative spoke to that in one of their earlier projects. They had gone from 80% tenants of teachers down to 59, and it had to do with that teachers who are no longer teachers but still are living there. And they were talking about like some of the things they're thinking about doing for future projects to avoid that. Are we confident that we kind of will be on that, won't have the same issues with?
Yeah, so there's a couple issues with the LA Unified Teacher Development. One of them being that they took federal subsidies in order to fund their project. And so the difference between us and them is that we're not taking federal subsidies. And, Perry can tell you more about like all the hoops and hurdles that you have to jump to in order to make that happen and in order to meet the federal requirements. And because this isn't funded through there, it makes life a lot easier. It will allow us to set the leases to very specific terms. And then I know probably in 2017 or 2018, when we discussed it, one of the conversations was, we would want essentially teachers the leases to end right around the end of the school year. So if a teacher was leaving, sort of a natural break. And I think that's just a conversation we'll have to have. And those are one of the things that we'll do as we start to look at, the terms of the lease and all the regulations that we have to put in there. We will have to establish a secondary board that will manage it. And then, the board will have somebody that sits on it. But it will function similar to Kanata College that has its own teacher housing project, or even Stanford, right? That the leases sort of move beyond there. I think one of our biggest challenges is going to be, because the completion date was moved back because of COVID, is that it's going to be in January. And so maybe one of the questions that will be asked is whether or not, if an employee needs to break a lease, are we going to help support an employee to break a lease in order to get in there? Because ultimately our pro formas are built upon the idea that we have 100% occupancy. And we don't have to have that obviously now, but our goal is to keep it at 100%, right? And the beauty of this project is because the rents are so low. And when we did this, it's actually teachers and staff. I do believe that we'll be able to keep it close to 100% occupancy at all times. And then we'll have to put in clauses that include, if you leave, by which time do you have to vacate the actual apartment and everything else.
Trustee Conley.
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing earlier, and this brought it back to mind. But when the board was originally planning this development, the discussion was a goal around having teachers be able to live in this type of housing that has very low rental rates for, let's say, 7 years, which is the calculation was about 7 years would be enough time to save up half of the money for a down payment on a home in Mountain View. And then partnering with Landed, which is a nonprofit that supports school district staff and teachers in their home buying, especially first-time home buyers. They match the contribution from the teacher so that there is a substantial amount. I want to say it was 150,000 each. So it was
I think it
300,000
was-
total
I think it was 10% and 10% or something
Okay.
like that in terms of the down payment.
to be able to do the down payment, so that we could have a pipeline towards home ownership for district employees as well. So I wanted to point that out as like one of the things that drove this. And our hope is that our teachers and staff are going to stay with us forever.
Yes, thank you. There was a lot of discussion around that. And as Dr. Rudolph mentioned, there's some details to work out, but we do have some models, especially with the La Cañada example. And then I believe Santa Clara also had some, and there are organizations that manage low income housing. So, we're not going to get in, there'll be some kind of a lottery. We're not going to get involved in picking, as long as people meet the eligibility criteria, which will be the salary piece in terms of the AMI, and then being a district employee, right? So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. Okay, thank you, everybody. Do we need a time for a short break, but before we move to the next agenda item, or should we mush on? Okay, so we're moving down then to item 10B, the Mauna Loma Outdoor Areas Improvement Project Update. And that is Dr. Westover again, I believe.
Yes, good evening, trustees. So this evening we have two guests from Carducci to talk about the process for our Monte Loma redesign. So we have Vince Latanzio and Carly Benke.
Hello.
Thank you.
So let's see.
Can I share the?
Yep. I'm going to share my screen to get the
Well,
presentation.
thank you so much, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Rudolph, to allow us to come to you and present the public outreach process that we have proposed for the Monte Loma Outdoor Improvements Project. We were really excited, and we wanted to make sure that we understood and shared the public outreach goals with you as a board. And we see that we wanted to make sure that we could provide an equitable, transparent outreach program that really tries to reach as many users as possible. And we all wanted to include multiple times and means of collecting the input from the public as well as focus groups. We wanted to make sure that we could provide a productive community and focus group meeting to gather input so it's fun, it's not boring, and it's interactive. And we wanted to make sure that we develop design solutions that incorporate all the users' needs and create a consensus of understanding by explaining how we get to where we're going, how the design transforms physical ideas and thoughts into a design in the landscape, and then develop a plan that we hope will benefit and support all users. We want to be able to make sure that we're communicating with the district and city. So we have already had some meetings on site to review with school staff, walk the site, and we've set up focus groups with various focus groups to get some focused information and feedback about special needs. And then we wanted to meet with the city staff and understanding the city needs. And we again met on the site with the city staff. And we talked about maintenance needs and other city needs and wants. And then the city staff and recreational leagues will also be having focus group meetings with them. And then the weekly design meetings we have with the district, and then the bi-monthly design meetings with the district, and we'll incorporate the city into the tail end of that meeting so we get their input. We want to make sure that we have regular updates to the Board of Trustees and regular updates to the City Council from the city staff, and ongoing communication with the entire community through both the website and our meetings in the community. We want to make sure that we're communicating as much as possible with the residents. So we have mailed out the postcards, notifications, and school newsletters. We have marquee signs, regular emails to trustees, councils. Social media would be used to help to publicize and make sure that we get everyone involved that we can in any way we can. Regular updates to the webpage. Shelley's been doing an awesome job of following up with us. She's a great team member. Posting at school and even on the restroom building walls at Montaloma, where we see a lot of neighborhood postings. And the methods we hope to use would be the Zoom webinar system. It's easily accessible, and we want to make sure that we can involve as many people as possible, make it as easy as possible and accessible as possible. We will be recording so that we don't miss any comments, and we will also use that for the focus group inputs. The Miro board is another system that we're using to make sure it's interactive and visually collaborative. It's like a whiteboard that can be used to communicate ideas, gather input. It's live and also stores all the information so we can retrieve it and review it at any time. It allows us to have some imagery, voting dots, post-it notes. It's very much like a live meeting online. So we're excited about that. And we want to be able to provide design direction and present design solutions that respond to the input so that it's very clear on the Miro board and can always be reviewed over and over again. We want to use these methods because we want to make sure it's a safe, engaging platform so everyone can be heard and everyone can hear others. Because the issue is how to get everybody to understand other people's perspectives as well as their own, and understand how things can become better when we all work together. Providing a live collaborative platform for community engagement is really important to us because we want to make sure it's enjoyable and productive, and opportunity for breakout groups if needed to accommodate language barriers or any other barriers we find. The community overview process includes 15 meetings. Some are focus groups. We start with this meeting today to try to give you an overview and a sense of how it's going to work. So the first meeting today is to give you an idea of what the process will be. Then on December 15th, we propose having the first community input process meeting where we will go over the process similar to this meeting in a way that gives everyone in the community and the public an idea of how they can provide input, how they can get involved, and how the outreach process will work and what we hope to achieve. The second meeting we'll have will be a focus group meeting with city staff. Focus groups are important because we can get a specific focus of their needs and wants, and we can take that and then present it back to the community so it's everyone's aware of it. The third meeting would be with the school focus group that would involve school staff and be able to help provide what needs and what wants the school has for the site. Because we'll be working on both the field and the school site itself to provide and meet school needs in today and into the future. The fourth meeting would be with the City Recreation League's focus group. That would happen, and this meeting is with just sport group users to find out their input about how they use the field area and the school site. And the focus groups would be about 90 minutes and involve up to 10 people. They would be invited to share their focus and their needs. Meeting 5 would be the senior focus group. Same thing, having specific questions for people to be able to answer and be able to gather that information and then prepare it to present it to the community as well. Meeting 6 would be a families focus group, and meeting 7 a neighborhood focus group. These 3 meetings would be signed up for on the website and at the school site. So that is something important for people to know, that they can sign up and get into these focus groups. It's not a real time consuming endeavor, and we hope to make it as easy and productive as possible. The next meeting would be our first community input meeting, where we would really start to ask for community input. We would recap the focus group input, and we would then collect community input at this meeting as well. And meeting 9, we would tend to repeat meetings so that people that can't make it during the week in the evening might be able to attend a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. meeting, so that we're trying to make sure that we give as much access to the public and community as possible to participate, to give input, and understand how we're going forward. Then we would come back to the Board of Trustees like this meeting and give you an update. We would recap what we've heard, how it's going, and we would revisit that. Then meeting 10 would be a community meeting B and a repeat of B on a Wednesday evening and a Saturday morning. Again, we would try to continue always to have input taken into account, and we would present master plan options that would be based on the community and focus group input to date, and we'd gather some preferred options and input through voting and through commentary and try to improve that. We would then repeat that meeting with some update on the community meeting B, repeat on Saturday at 10 a.m. In March, we would start to look at meeting 12, community meeting C. This would be the third community meeting in the series, and recap the master plan and the options and present a preferred plan that we feel is most generally supported, and then continue to get input on the preferred master plan. We would repeat that process and that meeting content on Saturday morning at meeting 13, C repeat. We'd then go reach out back to the focus groups with a survey online that would give them an idea of where we are and where we're going, how we got there, and if they have any other comment to revisit what they've thought and said in the earlier focus group meetings. And again, we would come to the Board of Trustees to review the community input preferred master plan for your review. On meeting 14 would be another community meeting that would be on Wednesday, April 6th. That would be the fourth community input meeting, and that would have the refined master plan. Again, the more of the finalized plan of design that then would get further input on. This would be repeated in meeting 15, a community meeting. And then our next meeting would be really with the Board of Trustees again to recap the master plan, community input, and hopefully get approval from the Board of Trustees to move forward into schematic design and eventually into construction documentation. We just wanted to review the first community input process meeting as a draft because that's coming up next week. And we wanted to be able to provide how would that meeting be orchestrated. And we think it'll be partially PowerPoint because it's informational like this meeting. So we will review the agenda and go over the community input process overview, review the schedule, review ground rules, review exhibits, wrap up, adjourn, and we would end it with a very simple survey that would not only provide a survey of how the meeting went and how we can improve outreach and any ideas that the community has, but also to give an idea, get ideas and get input about what they would like to see at Montaloma. So the participant takeaways are really, it's about making sure it's transparent and neutral, and we're gathering information, listening and responding to the information we're hearing, understanding how and when to get involved so that people understand various avenues to be involved and opportunities to build a consensus so that we have a real good understanding of how shared needs and solutions can happen. And we're participating actions are really get involved in the community input meetings, focus group meetings, and surveys. Ground rules for the meetings would be generally shared by both focus groups and community meetings. And basically we want to let people know that we're recording so that we don't miss comments, that all people are welcome to participate, that there are no wrong answers, and that share the air so no one hogs the air too much and shares it, and listen and be respectful of all opinions, assume good intent, being kind and not take anything personal, and work together to create decisions all users can support. And that basically ends it. And we would also end the first public comment community outreach meeting with a list of links and ways that people can get involved through the websites, and so that we would communicate that more clearly to them as a leave behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Chang, I saw your hand first.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince, for that presentation. On the community timeline for it coming back to the board with I see February 10th and then March 24th. Is it March 24th when and some kind of a articulation of the options will be coming to the board, or will it be February 10th that the board will receive some sense of the distilling of the input?
Oh, you'd still be able to give input on the
Will we see,
24th?
the options on February 10th.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Trustee Conley?
Thank you, President Blakely. Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative. I wanted to ask when I was looking at the communicating with residents, I know there's also a neighborhood association in the Montaloma neighborhood. And I'm assuming that, I know they're on our email list, but are we doing kind of a special push out to them because they are an information resource for the neighborhood around the school?
To answer, they're part of our listserv. So everyone that's signed up that's interested in hearing about Montaloma as well as the Montaloma Association. So anytime we have information, we're pushing it out.
Thank you.
I had a question. The Mountain View and the Montaloma neighborhood especially is a very engaged community. And I know we've got like 10 focus groups or something at the beginning, but if you had a lot of people, like for the community focus group or the family ones, if you had like 30 people who wanted to participate and you could only take 10 members to make the focus group work, would there be the possibility of scheduling an additional focus group at that early January-ish timeframe, depending on demand?
Yes, I don't see why we wouldn't be responsive to that. Again, we would anticipate getting 10 people from that focus group and wind up kind of with similar answers. And then we would present that at the community meeting, and that would be another opportunity for anyone to comment on that focus group's input. We're trying to keep everything with no names. We'd have colored tags for people that they could post-it notes. And so there's no individual being put at risk for how they feel or what they say. It's a very open process and very equitable. Everyone's comment is equal. And we could do that, but we find that we need to stay on track. So if we got that early enough, we would be able to schedule a secondary meeting if needed.
Thank you.
We want to be as responsive as possible for the community needs.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And I'm sure the community does as well. I just thought in one or two of those categories, you might be flooded. I don't know that, but just wanting to anticipate whether there would be the possibility if one or two of the focus groups were super oversubscribed. So it's good to know that we might be able to fit that in. Thank you. Trustee Conley?
I did have one further question, kind of piggybacking off of that, President Blakely. I know our senior citizens, there is a significant senior population in the Montaloma neighborhood who do make active use of the park space. And I know they really care deeply about access to the park space. I'm curious you all are a very experienced firm. You've clearly done a lot of this work before. What has the senior participation been like virtually? And are there, how do you support senior citizens who might not be as used to having to access the technology in being able to share their input?
What a great question. I'm a senior, so I appreciate the question. The idea is that if we have a printed survey available at the desk at the school, desk in the office, I think that's another methodology of communicating and leaving an opportunity open for anyone that isn't interested or on a computer level of engaging. We still want information from them. And there's many ways to provide that in written form and distribution through the school office, which is local enough for them.
Thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? Trustee Chang?
A quick one for our district staff on related to Trustee Connolly's question about engagement with senior citizens, or perhaps actually some of the people who use the park who may also have a linguistic barrier in addition to a technology barrier. Is there any way at certain points staff can go out into the park to do just kind of like direct fielding of questions or polling, or at the right stage, that is.
Is that directed to me or to the?
Or to more to district staff. I was thinking like a
Board.
school liaison or somebody if they could go out to, I mean, because I'm thinking of some of the people who use the park in Monteloma, like some of the people I've seen. I don't know if they would feel culturally comfortable walking to the school and filling out a survey in English. And,
Okay.
so I'm just wondering, but they may engage if a person who had linguistic ability to speak with those people spoke with them at the park.
Yeah, I think, we are open to trying to make sure as many people as we can get involved. I think Carducci has been very, very open to trying all sorts of different things to reach all different individuals. We're planning already to have an interpreter, make sure that all of our materials are readily accessible by individuals that speak different languages. So I think this is really an open process where we're trying to make sure that we reach all the people that are interested in providing feedback.
Normally, we would do a on-ground survey and collect information from individuals. I've been to this site several times and always with mask and always stopped, and people were very open about talking about the park and the school grounds and how they like them and how they use them. It could be something as things get safer and safer to be able to do some on-ground outreach.
Thank you. Let's hope they get safer.
Yes, absolutely. That's our wish. That's our goal.
Okay, thank you. So are there any members, if there are any members of the public who would like to speak on this topic, will you please either raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone? And I'll wait a minute to see if there is anyone who'd like to speak. I'm not seeing anyone raise their hands. So trustees, Trustee Wheeler has a comment?
Yeah, I'll just regarding seniors in Monteloma having technology ability. I know that there's a lot of seniors over there that are very technologically savvy. So, I just wanted to point that out.
Trustee Conley?
Thank you, Trustee Wheeler. I agree. I just remember some of the early input meetings that we had as a school district, and there were senior citizens who came to those meetings who were upset about not having access to easy communication and did seem, but you know what? That was the early days of Zoom, right? So things have changed and a lot of people have adapted since then.
I apologize. I think I did not wait long enough. I do see one member of the public who's been engaged in this topic, and I would like to give her an opportunity to comment. So Jessica Chauhan, will you please unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak on this topic.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, trustees, for the time to speak, and Carducci for your presentation. I just wanted to ask that the district consider posting larger signs in the park areas and in the neighborhood. It's something that the Neighborhood Association has found really effective for their meetings, that people that are more visible than, say, posting on the signboard, smaller signs there, something that people can see as they're driving by or maybe walking into or exiting the park. That's something that would be really accessible, especially to senior citizens or people who, pass by less frequently. So I appreciate your consideration for that and look forward to the meetings. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Chauhan. Okay, now we can pick up more trustee comments. Trustee Conley.
So I am really thrilled with the process that has been laid out. Not only is there a separate meeting to discuss what the input process will be, there are 8 additional community input meetings, 6 focus groups, and 4 board meetings. So we are going to have a smorgasbord of community input opportunities. I appreciate the skill and craft that goes into laying out a schedule like this and facilitating what can sometimes be really challenging conversations. People have strong feelings about how they use this space. It is a valuable and special shared community resource. And so I'm also thrilled that we have Carducci in place to facilitate this process and to lead us on this design journey that we're embarking on. And then I wanted to point out for the community, you know, Mauna Loma is a special case when we look at park space within the city of Mountain View and the park space that is owned by the school district and shared with the city through a joint use agreement. Mauna Loma does not have other very large park space within walking distance. It's in an area of the city that is underserved in terms of open space. And that meant that there were special considerations that went into the district taking on this process at Mauna Loma. And it's going to take some time, but I am looking forward to watching the plans and the discussion and the input develop over this year.
Thank you. Other trustee comments? Let's go to Trustee Berman and then Trustee Chang.
I just want to thank Trustee Conley for pointing that out, that Monte Loma is in sort of a unique situation in terms of its limited open space. I live in Monte Loma, and it really is an engaged community, and I appreciate for the community input meetings, having that weeknight meeting and then having that follow-up. It's a really engaged community, and I think it'll provide an opportunity for those that missed that weeknight meeting to have a second chance to provide some input. I'm really looking forward to seeing the engagement in these conversations and seeing this process play out. So thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
Trustee Chang.
Thank you. I echoing, just like I agree with my colleagues that Monte Loma is a unique situation, and as a community deserves the park space as any neighborhood in Mountain View does. I had a comment on comments on it. Was look at the timeline for the phases. There are 2 rounds of community feedback in the early phases. When it gets to the preferred option, there's 1 round, and just as something for the kind of staff to consider is perhaps it might be worth it to have that 2 round, which is kind of that extra outreach on the preferred option stage, because I think that for a lot of the people residents of Monte Loma, they're looking forward to seeing kind of some meat on the options when they go to these meetings. I think there's there might be even some fatigue on just the general stage. They're really looking forward to seeing what things are materializing as. So I think that I think we're going to see a lot of people want to be involved when we get down to that last phase, once the preferred options out there. So I think my suggestion would be flipping that. The other thing I noticed on here is there are many school board meetings, and there are no city meetings. And I recognize that indeed that maybe that's on the city's request that they don't want to meet. But I'm also mindful that it's very rare for any government body to want to pay for something that they're not actively meeting on. And as much as I believe that Monte Loma deserves a park, I believe this should be a city-funded project. And I believe that the school board and the school district, in being flexible about the use of land, I think is already showing, and also going ahead and leading and hiring an architect is showing a lot of generosity and leadership and trying to make a solution work. But I think that the funding for a final project has to come from the city. And I'm nervous that when the city is not involved in the process, and I recognize it's not because we excluded them. Well, I guess my message is for anyone, if there's anyone in the city is hearing this, is I urge them to want to be part of this process, because we're not excluding the city, but the city should want to, the city council, the city staff, but particularly city council, they should want to have as many meetings as the board is having, because in the end, this is their responsibility. It's their responsibility to build a park for Monte Loma. And then we have been a generous partner in this process. And I just don't see how they'll pay for it if they're not involved all the way until the end.
Any other comments, trustees?
I had just one quick thing that I made a note of and forgot to mention. Our speaker, Jessica Johan, had mentioned larger signage, and I just wanted to echo her comments. The community definitely relies on some sandwich boards placed strategically around the neighborhood that really are an effective way to remind the community about important meetings coming up. So I had made a note of it and forgot to mention, just to sort of confirm that that's something that works for the Montaloma community.
And I've seen our speakers' heads nodding both times when this comment is made. So thank you. Okay, well, we appreciate your joining us this evening, and we appreciate the care and thought that you put into this very inclusive process. And we're looking forward to, seeing it unfold. So thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
so much. Very excited.
Have a great evening.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda this evening is the CSBA Annual Conference. And any trustees wishing to share about sessions that they attended. Trustee Conley?
Oh, so many things. It was an incredible conference. And I also got to go, I was down there for 4 days because I'm on the delegate assembly for Santa Clara County. One thing that jumped out at me that was information that I think the policymakers and the public are still digesting, but I can see it becoming a large issue down the road, is that when Governor Newsom recently gave guidance for vaccination for students, the format in which that executive order is going to be rolled out means that when the vaccine requirement goes into place for public school students, which would be it's either January or July based on when it's fully authorized versus emergency use. And it's 7th grade through 12th grade is in one bucket. So it's not until it's fully authorized for that entire group. Because of the process that it was put forward by, there will be a personal belief exemption, which is something that I had not understood before. In order for the exemptions to only be religious and medical, it would have to be legislation that was approved by 2/3 of the state legislature to add it to the vaccine requirement list. So I have some concerns about that personal belief exemption, but I know that policymakers and legal analysts are still trying to figure out, there isn't any clear guidelines yet on how those personal belief exemptions will be determined, but I worry that it might undermine the actual vaccine requirement. So that's something that I wanted to share. That came out of attending a couple of different, it was a hot topic, some of the policy discussions, some of the legal discussions, and then I'll let other trustees take turns.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Mm-hmm.
When that came up, was there any discussion about consideration about lobbying the legislature to pass a legislative act and the likelihood of?
So the sense was that it would be dead on arrival, that the legislature was not interested in taking it up because schools have become such a hot topic politically. And yeah, and after the recall campaign this last year as well, it doesn't seem like there is an appetite at the state level to move that through the legislature.
Thank you for, I hadn't, none of the sessions I attended was that discussed, so I appreciate the sharing. Do others have items that were of interest that they would like to share with us?
So I actually went to, so I think Trustee Conley and I and you, Board President Blakely, attended a lot of the same sessions, but I will say, so I went to the 2 legal workshops, and both of them said the same thing you're describing. And everybody's, everybody in the rooms are, and the attorneys, they're, waiting just waiting to see, you know, because it's going to be a big deal. So anyway, so the first, and so this is partly for you, Trustee Chang, because I know that you're attending the virtual one, and people can attend some of the other workshops in the meantime. So there were 2 legal workshops, you know, so one the first day, one the other one the second day. The first one was a description of cases, and that one was really good. I love that kind of law school kind of presentation with really interesting cases if you're interested in education law. And then the second day was, and these were all experienced attorneys, you know, the biggest education attorney firms in the state. The second one was analysis of major issues. So, and again, you know, just like Trustee Conley was saying, it's great to be in the big rooms with everybody who's experiencing the same thing. So everybody's, everybody's really on top of, you know, what these issues are. But so I would recommend, you know, if you have time to attend, you know, to find both of those legal issues workshops. And then I personally am interested. I heard a couple people, including Superintendent Rudolph, went to some mental health workshop, and I'd like to hear about that one.
Yeah, so it's a program called Care Solace. So it essentially is like
Called what?
Care Solace. So it's like the Uber of mental health. So they have an app that you're able to access and get like instant mental health. You can connect with a counselor, or they give you different types of activities that you're able to do. So it's really an interesting program. We downloaded it, and we're going to reach out to them to see sort of what they offer. And they've been, so I want to say that they're in South, mainly in San Mateo County, a bunch of places, but they also may be in some school districts in Santa Clara. I forget the ones, but we have we downloaded their presentation and sort of look. And so some of the superintendents I was sitting next to as they were presenting talked a lot about just how easy it is and how accessible it is for families to use.
Interesting. Sure, I'll share the last one that I went to. I ran into Dr. Rudolph there, and he mentioned there was a workshop for long-term English language learners. It was on my short list, so you know, I went back and forth and decided to attend it, and really just walked away with a list of sort of to-dos during the break. So it was a presentation by California Together, which is a statewide advocacy coalition that produces research reports on English language learners and how they're doing in California. And they published a big report back in 2010. And just in October, they published a follow-up to that report. It was called Renewing Our Promise, and sort of a research and recommendations to support LTELs. And so there's some data on what's happened in California in the last 10 years. So I'm happy to share the link with everyone. They had a Google Drive folder with the report, and they also have, there was a survey, sort of like a little intake survey that districts and schools can do to see how they're supporting the LTELs, and just shared some interesting statistics, and there was just opportunity to share best practices. So I'm really curious to read through the report, and they also did a survey of over 100 districts in California that seemed really representative of schools in our state, and sort of pulled out some common themes, struggles, best practices, and things that they'd hope to see in our state published in that report. So I will share that with everyone.
Well, I have something to share too. I think some of you may have gone to some better sessions than I did, but I went to one, I believe it was Saturday morning, on community partnerships. And it was with the Chamber of Commerce in San Ysidro and a variety of groups in the community. And they talked about something that really kind of piqued my interest, which was a career pathways summer school program that they worked on putting together with their county board. And the county board had a bunch of funding for that. And it was, I believe they said like, it was, included grade school, because a lot of these sort of career pathways things or career kind of programs that when I've attended in the past, the focus has been more on the high school students, which obviously we don't have in our district. But they pulled together just different things, and they did field trips, and they got money for the transportation, I believe, from the county. And they said with the Common Core, like they weren't really doing the sort of more traditional, reading improvement or math skills, but they were able to weave some of the Common Core skills into this, and the kids loved it. And they went on field trips to all different kinds of businesses in the community, and kids really saw it. Like I talked to this one superintendent, and she said, yeah, kids need to see themselves. And, I talked to them about, well, if you like this, maybe you could become a teacher. And if you like being a teacher, you could become a principal. And if you like being a principal, you could have my job, because I'm not going to be here, 20 years. And she said, this one little girl said, yeah, I want to be a superintendent. It's just incredibly sweet. But I just thought it was something that would be worth exploring, perhaps, because I know every year when we try to figure out what we're going to do with summer school, and oftentimes we've had trouble trying to find teachers because the teachers are burnt out and they want to take their break and don't want to come back and teach. So I thought this was really interesting, and I got some names and I've made just initial contacts, and I was going to pass those along. And we, maybe it works for us, maybe it doesn't, but I thought it was really interesting. Trustee Wheeler?
I'd like to mention one more thing. And, this was so timely, and timely for two reasons. So I went to the workshop on hate crimes. And one of the things that was just thrilling about it was the new Attorney General for the state of California, Rob Bonta, was there. So he's the first Asian American person in that position in our state. So here he is, talking about, his own experience and, what they're doing statewide. So I thought that was great. And then, when I got home, I saw that, so here he's at our convention on one day, on Thursday, and then on Friday, I don't know if you read the story, he did this big press release where they had announced the arrests of, a whole bunch of these smash and grab, thieves from around the state. So, many hats that, this man is wearing, but so I was very impressed with him, and it was exciting. And this was a workshop that was put on by the Asian American, I think it's a school boards association. And Dr. Rudolph, I've mentioned this association to you before, and, asked if you'd look into, whether our school district could join this organization. And this was, really high quality workshop by high quality people. So, I'd like us to, see if we can get more involved. And the last thing, waiting for.
Is this where I share it? So the one thing that came out of the conference weekend is that I am the nominated incoming new regional director for the California School Board Association, representing Region 20, which is Santa Clara County. And that also puts me on the board of directors for the California School Board Association.
Bravo!
I'm no longer board president, so I needed something to do with that extra time on my hands. And our outgoing regional director, Albert Gonzalez, who's from the Santa Clara Unified School District, Santa Clara School Board, is going to be the new vice president of the California School Board Association, which I think is wonderful for the students in our community. I think it gives us even more advocacy at the state level.
Terrific. Congratulations. We are so proud to have you representing us. All right. The next item on the agenda is board updates. Does anybody have any updates
we-
other than what? Oh, do we need to
we
have
need
community comment? Did any members of the community want to comment on the CSBA annual conference sharing? If so, please raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Okay, I don't see anyone. So now we move on to item number 11, board updates. Trustee Wheeler.
Yeah, so I have submitted my report, but I would like to mention, I think all of you know that I'm the I'm the chairperson of the Education Committee for the League of Women Voters of Santa Clara. So, I always put this in my board update that, I moderated these meetings, we have agendas. We had an agenda item on Monday, and Laura Ramirez Berman was actually in attendance at this meeting. We were kind of debriefing and discussing a new group called the California Reading Coalition. And it was actually started by Todd Collins, who's a school board member in Palo Alto. And he has done a whole lot of research about reading scores for third grade low-income students in California, and where different districts in the state fall in this ranking. Mountain View Westman does pretty well. Palo Alto does pretty poorly. And, so he's analyzing, what are some successful things that districts are doing, and what are some things that districts are doing that is not causing success for their students. And, so, if we're doing pretty well and then other districts are not doing so well, there's some districts that are doing really well with similar demographics, lots of low-income kids. And, surprise, surprise, it's a lot of it has to do with what's the curriculum they're using and the fidelity that their district is adhering to in teaching reading. And, I talked with Superintendent Rudolph about this, a couple months ago, and I asked him, so what reading program do we use? And, he told me benchmark something. And when I talked to Todd Collins, he said, yeah, that's the reading program that is identified as, one of the top reading programs in the state. And districts that are not using that program are scoring real low. So anyway, our League of Women Voters Education Committee was so interested in this topic. And there are a lot of, everybody on there is, nearing an expert, so like here's Laura Ramirez Berman, past school principal. I mean, we have people like that, that caliber in our committee. So we're going to continue this conversation in our committee meetings, and, I can bring back some more information, but I am happy to share that our school district is doing well compared to a lot of them in the state. And I know that, well is not best. So, I'm hopeful that we're going to keep going. And so one of the big, and you hear about math wars, you hear about reading wars. One of the reading wars topics is phonics. And so I'm very interested in this topic, high quality, high enrichment reading using a phonics approach. So anyway, this is something I'm going to be following more and more this year and for a long time. Oh, I would like to say one more thing, and this goes back to my report. So I went to the Pure Politics one, and I spoke with Barrett Snyder of Capital Advisors Group afterwards, and I said, what's going on with universal TK? Because you're not hearing about it. I mean, it was a headline last year. What's going on? He said, it's still going on, slow. might take longer than originally intended, but, so that's another one of the topics that I follow all the time.
Thank you. Any other updates, Trustee Conley?
Just some legislative updates for the board. So the County Board of Supervisors is meeting next Tuesday, December 14th, and there are two topics of interest to our community that I wanted to make trustees aware of. One is that the North County Health Clinic, which our board passed a resolution in support of that referral that was brought by Supervisor Smidian. The report out on that is up for discussion on the 14th. So I'm just going to drop the resolution that we wrote into their agenda packet so that they have that from us. And then the other is that Supervisor Chavez and Supervisor Ellenberg together are bringing forward a referral looking at building out, the possibility of building out public broadband in Santa Clara County. 70,000 people in Santa Clara County do not have internet access at all. 73,000 people have internet access at such low speeds that it's practically unusable. And there's a real opportunity space to make sure that we can get our community online. So if that is of interest to trustees or to the public, I highly recommend tuning into that meeting, making your voice heard. And one of my other hats on the Digital Equity Coalition, I'm going to be sending out organizing emails tonight with information about how to speak and how to write in as well.
And that meeting is next Tuesday?
It's on Tuesday.
So it will conflict with the study session on North Bay Shore with the city
It
council?
is during the day.
Oh, okay.
I would their meetings start at 9 in the morning and can run late into the evening. I would expect that it would not appear before 11:30 a.m. They usually have time certain for a report on COVID at 1 p.m. So most likely it will come after that, but I will be watching starting early in the morning to try and track when it's going to come. The Digital Equity Coalition on our website, people can sign up for our emails. And when I send it out, people can actually sign up to get text alerts. I'm going to try and, it's so hard. It's hard enough following our board meetings or city council meetings and finding out when you can make public comment. But at the Board of Supervisor meetings, it's really challenging to predict their schedule. So it's helpful to be able to send out alerts when an item is coming up that people are interested in.
Thank you, Trustee Conley. I'm glad we have you there advocating on behalf of our district and all of our community members. Trustee Wheeler?
Yeah, so when you mentioned supervisors, I immediately went to, I imagine all of us are following this, but I'm going to say it, and also for the benefit of people who are watching the meeting. We're at the tail end of redistricting. So not only is it national redistricting and state redistricting, but we're doing county redistricting, city redistricting. Foothill de Anza is, near the end of redistricting maps. And so if you're interested in commenting about any of these entities, so Foothill de Anza, Santa Clara County, I know I'm following City of San Jose. I haven't heard about Mountain View, but anyway, that's all going on right now too. So very interesting.
Thank you. Any other board updates, or shall we move on to items for future agendas? Does anyone have any items for future agendas?
Yep.
Oh, Rudolph, okay.
So we had a future item to prioritize topic and goals for the upcoming board retreat.
Do we know when the board retreat will be? Will that be, I mean, we have a few special meetings for topic related. Is that our board retreat, or are we typically in this time have a broader board retreat? Or
The January 8th meeting is a special meeting for enrollment, and the 13th is an anti-bias training that the board requested. So the actual retreat will be scheduled. I'll work with President Blakely to figure out the dates for that.
Gotcha. In the previous years, usually it was tail end of January, or when would that?
So it just depends, but it's normally at the beginning of the year, and then that informs sort of what we do next year.
So we're later than our usual time would be.
No, we're sort of right in the same ballpark.
It's often been in January, but with these other meetings, we'll have to see. And then we've almost always done it on a Saturday, on a weekend day, sometimes morning, sometimes, like 10 to 2. But obviously we will be careful to avoid the Martin Luther King weekend. So that is a little bit of a limiting factor there. Yeah, but it's been in early February sometimes. So, and Dr. Rudolph, the item was just you said to prioritize.
It's just a future item to prioritize topic and goals for the upcoming board retreat.
And the process on this is, do we vote on it? I apologize.
If y'all want this to continue on, yeah, you have.
It's to discuss the retreat. Discuss what we want to do at the retreat.
If that's what you want to do, yeah.
I didn't send that item in, but I know last year we did have just a short, it was like 10 or 15 minute discussion of planning for the retreat. I don't know if this falls under that, which is kind of usually scheduled anyways.
I don't recall that. I know when I was board president before, I mostly just worked on it with Dr. Rudolph, but I think there was a sort of consensus of topics that people wanted to discuss. And then it was planning, strategic planning. Trustee Wheeler?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest if we want to have a short discussion item about this, we could include it in, one of these 2 special meetings that we're going to have. So add a 15-minute item to, one of those, instead of trying to, tap it onto a very busy regular board meeting agenda.
The anti-bias training is already several hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, all of these, you just remember we're coming off a break and we're doing 3 meetings back to back. So we'll do 1 Thursday, 1 Saturday, 1 Thursday, and then you turn right back around and then you'll hit break. The anti-bias training is about 4 hours after in the evening, and that's on a Thursday. And the anti-bias, the study session is we're aiming for probably about 6 hours.
So the January 6th meeting, I am not up to speed with the calendar items. Is that a full agenda at this point, or would it make sense to add a short item in into that?
We have several items, but I'll share the matrix with you, and then we can see from there.
Okay.
That's probably the best logical place.
Yeah, I was going to echo that, President Blakely. I think once you get into the matrix and you figure out what works, I trust your judgment and finding a place.
All right, thank you. So without any further comments I'm sorry. I wanted to say, because this is our last meeting before the holidays, I hope that everybody has a wonderful holiday. I know that all of our teachers and staff have been working so hard. This has been, we weren't expecting this year to be as hard as it was coming off of COVID, but it's been challenging. We truly appreciate all the hard work that everyone has been, all the hard effort everyone has been putting forth. And we hope that you all have a really lovely, relaxing time to just charge your batteries again and spend time with your family and sleep in and do the things you like to do. And so I hope you all have just wonderful holidays. Thank you. And at 9:37, the meeting is adjourned.